There's a lot of conversation surrounding a concept that has been leaked, but we haven't really covered here on the channel. It is known as the Asgard, and we won't be covering that today. Still waiting for some more solid information to come out on that first. But some of the rumors surrounding it have brought up questions of if we're going to get a vehicle or a ship that is meant to be a transporter, which again, we don't know if it is or not. These are just rumors. But if we are, then people's first questions are, what about the Liberator? Because the Liberator was very much meant to be this kind of a ship. In fact, you can go and find like its concept images show that pretty clearly. So this was like your mini carrier. And when it was first revealed, CitizenCon 2951 2021, which we're about to watch said reveal, it was, and you'll hear, touted as something that's meant to be carrying stuff around. The thing about it, so this is a post from 2 years ago. The thing about it is like most people, and this is what we're going to find out today, if they ever officially said anything about using it in Pyro, most people thought this was very clearly an indicator of Pyro specific gameplay. The idea behind this was if you can't land somewhere and get fuel or repair or just anything that you needed to do, this is the ship that you would use if you're out in like a wasteland or a frontier system. Now, the most obvious reasons why that wouldn't be the case is because you can't even do those things in game right now. You can't really repair your ship that well. Refueling is the way it is. So there's definitely reason for this ship to not be made, since it would need to factor in ship services. And they probably messed themselves up on introducing a ship that's meant to be a carrier that everybody, as you can see here, very much thought it would be like a Pyro thing. In my opinion, we need this ship for Pyro as a light carrier. And you'll see a lot of people saying stuff like that. But Star Citizen is in a position where they need to really be careful with their resources, and to build this ship out so that we could easily carry vehicles and ships right now, only to possibly have to have a rework on it because refueling and repair gameplay called for something different in 2 years. I can see why they wouldn't release this, but I can also imagine that Anvil Liberator owners are pretty annoyed with the fact that it hasn't come out. Let's take a look at the reveal itself and what they had to say about it.
From the 400i to something a bit bigger and something entirely new, which is the Anvil Liberator, which is Anvil's latest design, a spaceship, which is purely for transporting ships. So we wanted to do something properly and sort of provide that entry-level spaceship for that career. If you want to be a ship hauler, then this is the ship for you. It provides that good foundational base for it.
It's a fairly regular sort of process on this one. As Jared and I have chatted before, these ships are often described as berths, easy berths, hard berths, difficult berths. I think this one was a fast berth. It's been a while since we've worked on some Anvil stuff, so in terms of the lineup, we have the Ballista, the Terrapin, the Hurricane. The Valkyrie, is probably more sort of, it's one of those larger ships. Then we've got the Carrack.
Yeah.
So a lot of work has already been done for those ships, and we've got, we've got the modular kits. So in terms of the concept process, theoretically, it's smoother sailing. And in terms of our process again, it's that investigation, and each manufacturer has sort of a loose set of rules. I'll say it's loose because there's always space for us to sort of slightly veer and slightly tweak the manufacturer.
Well, I think, like you said earlier, like manufacturers change with time as well as
they evolve.
Yeah, it's not like every ship came out with the exact same date with the exact same manufacturing processes. It kind of all.
Yes, yeah. And I think, I mean, that's kind of what I like about Star Citizen is we've got this sort of, it's this sort of rolling kind of like design, it's sort of, design everything is being updated, and it's nice that, when we work with narrative and they're like, oh, well, actually it's based on this old design, or whether it's a new stuff. So, one of the early requirements from John, which you can see here in this fabulous designer art.
Top quality design block.
Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm not sure about that shade of green, but not quite Anvil. But basically, this is super easy for us, and also, because we're working with a contractor, about sort of laying out the limits of, because we always, we like to make ships big, so it's always, okay, we've got our metrics, it has to fit within this. Like, whatever you do, make it cool, but it has to fit within these bounds.
Yeah, it was quite strict on the landing pad size, but you need to fit a number of ships in it, but also make sure that it really kind of stayed within its. Otherwise, John will give us big slap wrists.
I'll come after you.
Yeah.
Because on that image there, you can see there's the red box, which is the maximum bounds that the ship can be. If you go outside that, it literally won't fit through the hangar doors and ceiling. So obviously it has to be in there, and that's a max, not a goal to hit, because we've ended up in the past with ships that have a centimetre or two's clearance right at the edge. Carrick. So when you're coming in and out of the hangar, you just clip as soon as you clip one side of it, then it throws it into the other one.
Yeah, it makes it difficult.
And you can see there for the extra small landing pads, the green size. So once you've got 3 of them, so at this point in the design brief, it was just 3 extra small ships. By the time you've got these 3 green, and they have some Z height to them, which I didn't put in here. By the time you've got these green blocks, so like you've got to have space for these, and also got to fit in this. Then you sort of start funneling yourself into
and I
shapes.
think you provided a reference image right at the start, which is of military hovercraft.
Yeah, the American. I can't remember if it's the Navy or the Army.
Yeah, and so that was like, people will see straight away the correlation between the two and the sort of influence, but it also makes sense, right?
It's a very
functionality.
I'd say it's a very functional ship, isn't it? So, and it feels like say, obviously, the real life version has been made for that function, and this kind of follows suit.
Yeah, definitely. And so, we'll basically be looking at some of our exterior options, and again, it's always, it's quite difficult when you have something like that reference image of the military hovercraft, because instantly it sits in your mind.
Yeah.
And you sort of get, you kind of get sort of stuck in that thinking. And so, part of my job is also to sort of push the concept artists and say, right, okay, well, what about this? What about that? I think, it's always it's always a sort of dual role. We sort of, you work together, and kind of 2 minds is always better than one, right? So in this case, we're sort of looking at, this is a sort of first stab at it. So there's a lot of similarity with the Valkyrie. So there's the Valkyrie engines. It's pretty standard. It's just one floor plate, and it's symmetrical. It's not, it's a nice design, but doesn't really speak of Anvil to me. Yeah. But it's cool. I like it. There's some interesting
Certainly
things.
very hovercrafty.
Yeah. I think just too simple for
too wedgy.
Yeah. This one was asymmetrical version. We've got that massive tank on the side. What it does, I'm not quite sure at this point, but it's it's just visual exploration. We've got the asymmetrical wings. Again, sort of interesting stuff. At this point, we're starting to push into like terrapin territory. So we've got the sort of essentially like the bridge, and it's kind of like got a cowl. It's like a sort of it's kind of like the little turtle head from the terrapin, and sort of mixing and matching. And so it's kind of interesting. Again, we're doing these things rapidly, so
has some pros and cons design wise, well, because obviously we have the XY metric, but you also have the Z. So a lot of our hangar metrics are quite tall. So the problem with this one was it was just to the height of the ship. Like the actual height it would have needed to be would have been double that. So then you end up with this really tall, gangly thing, because we've also shortened it by a third. So
I like you trying to get yourself into like the shape of a ship. Yeah, that's
really
good.
tall.
Yeah.
And then here is like where we sort of start hitting upon something that I don't know where the decision was made, but it made sense to have the garages on that lower deck. Here, you've got 2 tanks lying side by side, which is cool. It looks good, but it isn't actually like an official feature.
Yeah. It was around this point where we were looking at the double layer thing and trying to get these 2 layers to work, or 2 floors to work with the 3 larger ships. So we changed it from the 3 extra small pads to 2 extra small pads, which basically take any single seat fighter in the game and some around. So I think a prospector also fits on there.
Yep.
And then we scaled the front one down to an extra small. So that's things like the Argo MPUV, Origin 85X, and smaller flying ships like that. But also, interestingly, that extra small metric is sort of the same as the medium vehicle metric. There's like a meter difference in height, which is the Ballista and Nova. So we went from these 3 extra smalls to 2 extra smalls on top, 1 extra small at the front, and then these 2 garage slots, which can also, if you're willing to try and fly your small ship in there.
You were playing around. You could fit quite a few combinations of ships in there.
I had a shot. I treated it like I was a fan and basically filled that whole carriage.
There was no sort of like door opening space at all. It was
it was cyclones and
we know what the
rock
players
DSs.
are like.
I mean, it looked good. I mean, it looked like it looked like a ferry. When they're just full of the vehicles all just stacked up.
Just increases like the risk value.
Just to be clear, this is likely what this year's CitizenCon is going to be like. This was 2021, where they didn't have a physical CitizenCon, but they still had these sorts of videos. They just had folks that had things to say. It's basically like a long ISC. So if you're wondering what this year's going to be like, probably a lot like this.
Buying it, doesn't it? Like if you've got 3 ships on it, all right.
Yeah.
Got 15.
And need a big insurance payout. So once we have an exterior that we were happy with, then it's then we move on to the interior. And it's only 2 crew.
Yep. So it's 2 crew. You have obviously the person flying the thing, and then the second person who can either sort of a flexible role. There is a turret that they can control. They can go sit in it and shoot anything that comes at you. But it's not really a ship that's a combat ship. It's a transporter ship. If you want protection, you need to bring protection with you, or rely on the ships that you're carrying to provide that protection, which is another benefit of this open-topped ship. You come under attack, everyone can launch out straight away. You're not having to fly your ships out one by one out of a tube. They can get off pretty quickly.
We haven't done launch tubes yet, have we? One day.
One day we do launch tubes.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I'll think about that. Basically we've moved on to interiors. Again, it's just investigation of, we've got our function and what it needs to achieve, but, in the last, 4 years, definitely the last 2 years, our process has just been a lot strong.
I don't think that when they say 2 crew, that's minimum 2 crew. This is still a pretty large ship. They're not... Man, they spend a lot of time talking about this, huh? It's definitely a big enough ship that you're not limited to 2. Just look at this. You got a kitchen, engineering section, turret, cockpit. You could have 5 people doing things on this ship, I would imagine. 4 or 5 people. Max. It's max. Yeah, see, I don't think their beds are going to limit crew anymore. I think as far as what CIG's communication says, beds don't matter. Who cares? Well, how many beds your ship has? So I don't think crew limitations are even going to matter in Star Citizen that much anymore, just because CIG is kind of moving away from an idea of ships being limited, I guess. I think that this ship's going to be plenty fine, though, with more than 2 people on it. If you can bring a couple friends along and one can sit in the turret, the other can sit in your co-pilot chair, and then somebody's running engineer, it's not going to be a fun time. But I think that you can run with more than 2 people on this ship.
Any single seat fighter in the game and some around. So I think a prospector also fits on there.
Yep.
And then we scaled the front one down to an extra small. So that's things like the Argo MPUV, Origin 85X, and smaller flying ships like that. But also, interestingly, that extra small metric is sort of the same as the medium vehicle metric. There's like a meter difference in height, which is the Ballista and Nova. So we went from these 3 extra smalls to 2 extra smalls on top, 1 extra small at the front, and then these 2 garage slots, which can also, if you're willing to try and fly your small ship in there.
You were playing around. You could fit quite a few combinations of ships in there.
I had a shot. I treated it like I was a fan and basically filled that whole carriage.
There was no sort of like door opening space at all. It was
it was cyclones and
we know what the
rock
players
DSs.
are like.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good. I mean, it looked like it looked like a ferry. When they're just full of the vehicles all just stacked up. A lot stronger in terms of player flow. So there's no more of the Starfarer. Higgledy-piggledy
mystery tour.
I mean, that was our first multi-crew ship, so the pipeline wasn't in place. I mean, spaceships interiors was like, I don't know. So, I mean, there's been a lot of learning going on, so now it's like, okay, if I'm a player, what experience do I want?
Yeah.
Like, how do I get from A to B? I don't want to do A to G to H to get to B.
Yeah.
None of that business. So as we look at these interiors, we just sort of looked at sort of different flow, basically different ideas. So it feels quite good, and we sort of worked on, again, just flow. So if you're in the garage, you can easily get from the garage into the living quarters. The elevators just run the full height. There's one for crew, one for passengers. So if you're under the ship, you can just easily get up and down. And so the whole process is a lot more streamlined, and there's even if you're in those top rooms, and there's a call to action. You've all got to get out. We've even put a nice little set of stairs that just run down the side of the ramp, and so you can just run down, get in your whatever it is,
whatever vehicle,
and then off you go. So I feel like a lot of thought was given to just improve.
And I think it's really nice as well, the fact that you've got, like say, that passenger section kind of sectioned off, and they're always ready. But then, like say, you were saying about the bows of the ship and how that's sort of, all that technical stuff's like hidden at the bottom, and that feels nice that that's crew only, and because you don't want passengers just just
definitely
milling around.
And then moving on to, you can see here the garage base and where the cargo is stored. So originally the cargo was going to...
Honestly, it's interesting. I'm not seeing any habitation stuff. I see bathroom here. Is like a eating area, storage lockers, suit lockers, another bathroom, docking collar, more suit lockers. I don't see habitation though. I would imagine it's somewhere up here, right? Keep it on a different deck than your visitors. This is the crew side. You got storage lockers, life support, bathroom. 2 beds, okay.
Where the cargo is stored. So originally the cargo was going to essentially take up one of the garage spaces.
It was going to be a compromise choice that players could make of that the cargo is stacked down, either down the middle of the lower garage or across like one of the pads, so you could choose. But then decided to...
we had a bit of space. Well, basically the concept guy, when I went rogue, was like, oh, what about this? This is cool. And we were like...
Yeah, it does look cool, yeah.
Yeah, I was
like, John, can we have this?
Coming to a meeting. I've just gone away and done this thing that we're not going to talk about, but it's turned into the cargo storage room. So
yes,
it's a good sort of save.
Well, we want. I mean, for me as an art director, I want my team to feel like they can take those little forays off if they want, if they've got a good idea. And luckily this time it's panned out and makes good use of the space. I mean, because like I said, the ship is quite big. So then we get to the fun part, which is when we get onto promo. I think it's everyone's favourite part involved with this sort of stuff, and that is really sort of, I call it selling the dream. So it's you're really sort of honing in into what a player's experience might be. And I love doing this sort of stuff as well. So here we've got a fully loaded carrier. And
the core of what that ship is for. Like you have these smaller carrier-borne ships is what Chris likes to call them. Like they're not deep space fighters. They can't go long distances by themselves. They need to be from a parent ship. So the Liberator is, unless you're suddenly got an Idris to carry things with, this is what you're going to see going through these wide and long star systems. Like Pyro is incredibly large compared to Stanton, and Stanton's already quite big to go from one side to the other. So we really need these ships to help you lug all your stuff from point A to
So I
point
guess
B,
that's where it
because
comes from. Just that Pyro was used as an example of a system where this ship would really benefit. And they did make Pyro smaller since that. Pyro was supposed to be, I think, around 15 AU. And it's around 11. Not that much smaller, but it is smaller. So that affects the need for a ship like this, but it was brought up as an example there.
If you do it in your Hornets, that's going to be, I don't know, 50, 100 little stops. Whereas you cram it in one of these and send it on its way, it's going to be a much better experience for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I think this is going to be a fun one to kind of get onto.
Yeah, I think your team's going to like that.
That's pretty much
Okay.
it for the Anvil Liberator.
That's the Liberator. Let us look at the Q&A for this ship now and what they were saying about it more specifically. First question they're asking, what are the capabilities of this ship? Refueling, repairing, rearming the ships and vehicles it carries. Liberator will only support basic levels of refueling, repairing, and rearming, which will be done manually by players on board using supplies stored in the cargo bay. It does not have dedicated facilities or separate stores. So there goes my belief for why it might be delayed. There's not actually anything in this ship that is definitively linked to repair and stuff like that. So they wouldn't need to do a rework if it's all based on what players can do here on the deck itself. The deck is not protected. Shields project multiple meters from the ship's hull, so most ships will likely be partially covered. The same applies to the Kraken and any other ships where vehicles are stored on the exterior. Okay. Yeah, Liberator could have been done by now. I mean, carrying ships around is probably a physics thing that they don't want to have to deal with, but it's not like there's anything keeping this ship from functioning in the game. Can the Liberator transport one big ship on both its upper decks, providing the latter can touch down with all its landing gear? Officially, this won't be supported, but players do what players do, is basically what they said. Kraken and Idris are over double the size and will have greater range, okay? Tractor beam, facilities to house crew. Crews of those transported vehicles have access to their own dedicated area of the ship, complete with food surfaces, lockers, storage, bathroom, and seating area. So not much else here that would give any reason for this to not exist. I think this is probably one of if not the biggest spaceship on the Star Citizen backlog that's still not in the game. Who knows why? We'll have to see what happens at Invictus though. If they do release a concept for a new vehicle and ship carrying ship, then we'll have some answers on this one. I'll have some explaining to do.